Many thanks for joining us. This is another installment of the Link AI AMA. We have a double header this evening, and we are going to be discussing two main topics, which will be Synthetiq and LinqProtocol. And it's myself, George Fox, behind the main account, and Logan, my co-founder and the CEO. He will be answering all the tricky questions. So we will dive straight in, and we'll get cracking. So we will open with an update on Synthetiq first. Logan, obviously the devs have been mega busy in the background making some amendments to Synthetiq after the product hunt launch. Do you want to maybe give people a brief overview of very briefly, what Synthetiq is, what it does, and the tweaks that we've done and why we've made those tweaks?
So for people that don't know, you can use Synthetiq at use.synthetiq.app or synthetiq.linkai.com. And Synthetiq is a social media simulation tool. So it's really kind of a first of its class tool that helps people take a post that they've made and iterate on it and get some unique insights from a web of AI agents. So in the background in Synthetiq, we have a unique AI system that models agents based on your LinkedIn profile or other social media profiles. That's one of the additions I'll get into soon. By doing that, it creates a virtual audience where you can engage with people that don't really exist, but that give you kind of quantitative feedback on what you're posting out there. So Synthetiq is very useful in kind of iterating on posts and taking something that you're unsure of and kind of finding unique perspectives in the web of agents and making it better and better until you actually have something that you're comfortable posting. And so that's what Synthetiq is. And I'm sure you're going to ask me shortly what updates we've been getting to. But again, for everyone that hasn't used Synthetiq, there's obviously the waitlist is gone for now. We had a ton of people sign up to the waitlist at Product Hunt. A lot of those people are into the app using it, and the waitlist is now removed. There's a payment gateway as well, so you get about 10 simulations free, and after that, it's $9.99 a month. So feel free to check it out. For those who haven't, again, use.synthetiq.app or synthetiq.linkai.com.
So specifically the amendments, that we've made. Obviously, the A/B testing that we've done, for those of you who are unaware, is basically sort of crudely throwing some stuff against the wall, seeing what works, and comparing it with something else and tweaking. Do you want to go into a little bit of that, Logan, whilst I get this link correct?
Yeah, so you can A/B test in Synthetiq, and I think a large chunk of where we've gone since the initial version, which was very much around general audiences, is allowing people to mimic their own audiences. So again, importing from your social links. And we also added a builder where you can select like a very niche down audience that you might want to target. This is useful, probably not in most people's own profiles cases, but if you're a social media manager or a marketing professional and you're working for a client, obviously your LinkedIn won't really have their audience set out. So if you want to model your potential client's audience or company that you work for audience, the audience builder is super useful for that because it allows you to build something to spec that their audience would represent. And so, I've kind of got into it, but a large chunk of what we've been doing recently is niching down into more personal audiences, things that represent you personally. And we've seen a lot of good results. The more niche to a single person we make that audience, the more accurate the simulations become for that specific person. So are you all good amending that link? Because honestly, I think the next question you were going to ask
is... It's done. It's done.
Where are we now, right? The last AMA, we discussed a little bit of these updates. And since then, our focus has pivoted a bit from product development as far as it is adding features and refining what's there into taking what's already a product that has a lot of traction and running ad spend on it, taking it out into the broader world, and really working on our conversion pipeline. So for those of you who've been on the landing page, which is just synthetiq.app, you'll notice a lot of changes, copy tweaks, small things. It's funny you mentioned A/B testing because that's a lot of what we're doing right now. A/B testing different messages, different copy, different images to try and get people to convert more frequently. Something that in this latest update that isn't quite live yet, but it's really around the corner. We've refined a lot of the things that we noticed were off-putting to people or things that they wanted more of. And so you'll see more detailed comment summaries. You'll also see a very new way that we represent the way you get likes and comments and shares. It's a bit easier for people to understand and wrap their head around when they just land in Synthetiq. And what we've seen users really enjoy doing is iterating on posts. The previous version of Synthetiq, it was a little bit out your way to make amendments to a post and try it again unless you're A/B testing two specific posts. And now a lot of the focus in the new version of Synthetiq will be shooting out a post and rapidly editing it. We've put all of that UI in one central place, so it's really easy for people. And we're seeing really good results on the ad spend side of things. And so Synthetiq's definitely a headline app for us. It's where a lot of our focus is right now. And I'm sure, the title of this AMA probably gives a hint as to where all the other focus is. But that's pretty much where we are at for Synthetiq right now. We brought on a lot of marketing support. They're doing a really good job optimizing ad spend and optimizing the ad copy and creatives to target the right people and to bring some clients through the door. So very exciting updates for Synthetiq. It's definitely personally one of my favorite apps we've ever developed, and the one I think has the most legs in the AI agent space, where a lot of people make AI agents, right? Like, how many chatbots have you seen at this point that just is like an open-ended chatbot, and it's like ChatGPT but a little bit different, or maybe a little bit better at some things. And Synthetiq is kind of a different perspective on the agent thing, where we don't scale it out like vertically, where we add features into our agent that makes the single agent better. It's more of a horizontal scaling, where the thing that's interesting to me is like, yeah, okay, it's cool what you can do with a single agent, but what can you do if you strap like 1,000 of them together? And what unique insights can you get from that? Why I'm so interested in strapping 1,000 agents together versus making one that works really well is LinqProtocol, and this was mentioned in the light paper a while ago, is a great network, and any kind of decentralized compute network, especially when you consider consumer grade hardware. It's great for running a lot of small things. Big models like a 80 billion parameter llama model, most consumers won't have the GPU power in their PC to run something that big. And an interesting thing about Synthetiq is we actually use really small models to simulate the agents. And that makes it great as an application or a use case for LinqProtocol, because we can distribute the workload of running very small agents to much more consumer grade hardware compatible PCs or even smaller servers. And so partially where we are with Synthetiq now, and I'll kind of bridge over to the second half of this here, is that at the same time as what we're building a revenue pipeline and its own kind of SaaS app, we're also building it in a way that makes it a great use case and a great kind of feature product for LinqProtocol. And again, embarrassingly parallelizable task, which is what we talk a lot about in the light paper. Synthetiq is a perfect application of that. And so, as we're doing this, we're also considering how we're going to be kind of pioneering the deployments on Synthetiq being the kind of flagship app that goes onto LinqProtocol, and where we can find opportunities to run different parts of Synthetiq on other people's PCs, and kind of prove out this use case of a decentralized compute network that's running a SaaS app that was initially built to run on kind of the regular tech stack, and migrating that to our own kind of decentralized compute network with LinqProtocol. So a lot of exciting stuff happening with Synthetiq, and I'm sure all of you will very soon see a nice new update, probably some new videos. And I'd really encourage you to go play with Synthetiq if you haven't given it a shot yet. Again, 10 free credits, and after that you can hop on the payment, the gateway. And then also importantly for our Earn AI members, if you'd like to use Synthetiq for free, always just reach out in the Telegram and we'll be happy to send you a lifetime discount code for participating in Earn AI. That's pretty much it from my side, George, on Synthetiq. I don't have much more to add there.
Yeah, and I like how you sort of just kept going on that, just to sort of kill many of my questions. So yeah, thank you, Logan. Updates, uptake, and route to market. So no, it's going really well, and Synthetiq, like you said, is probably the sort of punchiest thing we've created sort of thus far. But it's a great example of and it will be a big showcase for us to put on LinqProtocol to show other projects, other Web3 projects, that you can run your stack on a decentralized compute protocol as opposed to one of the big ones. And so therefore it will be a case of putting our money where our mouth is and moving our entire sort of fleet of apps at that stage across to the protocol. So yeah, very excited to see how that gets on its own, and also then to have it running on LinqProtocol. So this is probably
if I can say something there, right? It's like, one thing that's very unique about Link AI that I think a lot of other companies don't do is that we cater to these two spaces at once, right? So it's a mixture of like trying to succeed in the SaaS space, trying to be competitive on things that a traditional incubated company from venture capital firms would prioritize, like a product hunt launch going really well. Succeeding on that front, but also at the same time having a release LinqProtocol, having this deep understanding of where we want to go with decentralized protocols. And so, kind of playing these two fields at once, oftentimes very tricky, but it pays dividends in the long run, especially as kind of the promise of LinqProtocol is to unite a lot of what happens in the SaaS world and bring a lot of what you've come to expect as a SaaS deployment hosting experience, and bring that on chain and back it with LNQ. Just thought I'd call out the fact that we do have this ongoing game that we play between these two spaces, which is quite unique to us.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's been that way for the last 18 months now. So that's very much a core part of what we're aiming to do. So look, Synthetiq, Update, amazing, thank you. Moving on to the second sort of much meatier part of the AMA, which is LinqProtocol. Now I still am really struggling to get in my head why other people haven't quite grasped the size of what we are building with LinqProtocol. So obviously we are developing in the background, and we're sort of trying to tell the story, whether it be the light paper and the educational series that we're pushing out. But I genuinely think, I really do think that people just haven't, whether they don't understand or don't believe, that there is definitely, it is not sort of been driven home yet to either new holders or existing holders, or anyone really in the community, I don't think. So Logan, do you want to give, because there are some new faces here in the AMA, people just a basic crude rundown, a refresher of what LinqProtocol is?
So I think it's easiest to start with what problem are we solving? So in any traditional company where you're building apps or you're building websites or you're building anything that requires like computational power, you're using either Amazon or you're using Google Cloud or Azure, and you're deploying your things to run on their servers. And that is an enormous part of development, not just writing the code, but also configuring servers, running them, making sure they're scalable, making sure they're easy to maintain, making sure you reduce technical debt. And so one of the issues in the kind of world right now is that these servers, Amazon, Google Cloud, and Azure, control like over 90% of all of the compute power in the world that's actively used by development companies. And so what LinqProtocol presents is an partially on-chain and partially off-chain solution to running a decentralized compute network. Now, what does that mean? A decentralized compute network, at least the way we see it, consists of kind of two parts. One part is there's a lot of servers in the world that don't have customers. They've invested a lot of money into their servers and they have servers running, but a lot of that time's idle. I think from the light paper, we referenced like 12 to 18% idle or usage. So of these servers that cost millions and millions of dollars to set up in infrastructure costs, most of them only get used like 12 to 18% of the time. So why is that? Largely it's because they struggle to compete with these bigger platforms like Amazon, Azure, and Google Cloud for demand. So put yourself in the shoes of a server owner. You've invested into the server, and now you need to go out in the world and market yourself, and you need to find people who actually want to use your server. And that's not so trivial. And so part of what LinqProtocol presents is a place to aggregate demand for these people, where we can say, hey, we're going to go find clients that want to run something on our servers, and actually that server is going to be you as long as you run LinqProtocol stack. For them, it solves a huge problem, which is, well, their servers sit there and don't earn money for half the time. And the promise of LinqProtocol to the servers is that we're going to give you something that you just install on your PC, and we're going to constantly drive you traffic, which will generate you money. And in turn, it will grow the network. Servers are a huge focus, partially a huge focus for us, because that's where the most reliable compute is. They were built from the ground up to run your web server like 99% uptime all the time online, and they have this huge demand issue. On the flip side, you have a lot of consumer grade hardware out there in the world that, you know, how many computers in your house do you have that you don't use? If you're me, it's quite a few. You might have less, but even just one, that's a money-making machine that just doesn't have a use case right now. And we find that there's a lot of interesting cases where you can run things on consumer grade hardware. And so a second part of what we're targeting is building a client that turns kind of anyone's computer into a server and makes it open and accessible to the wide web with sufficient security that people can just run other people's software on there and turn their kind of idle machines into revenue generating products for themselves. And so that's what LinqProtocol represents. I think though, you know, if you're in the decentralized compute space or you've been nearby it, that won't be a new pitch. And there are a couple of people who've tried this before. Largely, they've been bottlenecked by their economies or by the way that they bootstrap demand. We're in a very unique position of having SaaS demand and having developed so many SaaS tools that create computational demand that, you know, we see an opportunity for ourselves to bootstrap this network by, you know, moving what we've built onto that network ourselves and getting that initial usage there. Further than that, partner outreach, encouraging other people to run on it. But I think something that, you know, I hope that the deployment videos are making clear, and I've been seeing as our marketing kind of targets a bit more toward developers, we've been seeing some more interesting comments and some more interesting engagement on the way that we've approached this problem. So from a technical standpoint, we're trying to build something that feels like home to a Web 2 developer, where this is just what they're used to. It looks and it feels and works like any traditional platform they've come from, except it's on-chain and it's decentralized. And so that focus as kind of a North Star from our design perspective and our development perspective, I think situates us in this kind of new bucket where we have a chance to attract people that normally would steer clear of protocols like a cache because they're not user-friendly enough. They just don't work the way they expect them to. And all of this put together, that's kind of what LinqProtocol is. It's a decentralized compute marketplace aiming to be the censorship-resistant, on-chain solution to anyone's server or compute needs. And it's almost like you can phrase it like whatever there is in the world that's a computer that AWS, Azure, and Amazon don't own, that's our target market. Those are the people we want to on-ramp and bring them onto protocol and open that up as an easy marketplace for anyone to come on there, rent a server, and just get instant kind of frictionless access, and also all of that through kind of a trustless mechanism. So that's what LinqProtocol is, and that's where a big chunk of our focus is.
And it's probably worth mentioning that even the large servers, the big ones, the AWS, the Azure, and all those lot, I think that what is their average uptime? Something like 16%. If you think about the amount of cost that goes into building a server farm, you want it flat out constantly. And if you're only getting sort of a sixth of that time at the best of times, you're permanently looking to try and get uptime because of the capital outlay, and the smaller servers, the middle players, the people beneath that, probably have even less uptime. So, like Logan said, offering these solutions on LinqProtocol is a huge benefit for them because it doesn't cost them anything really to do at all. So, okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Logan. Anything to add there, or did I?
I think just on that, right? Like when we say like 16% uptime, it's not that our goal is to make that 100% uptime. It's an unreasonable, unrealistic goal. But if you imagine that on 16% uptime, most of these are profitable. If you don't hit that number, you're probably not profitable, right? But the fact that you achieve profitability there means if we can take that number from 16 to 21%, that's a huge win for these servers, especially the ones that don't even achieve those kind of baseline figures. And so that was just a kind of point I wanted to make there. And secondly, there's a lot of bureaucracy in compute. You have to KYC most of the time. I think most of us in this space at least hate KYC. And the fact that for financial things, it's maybe understandable. There's some other places in life where you're like, okay, I get it. I know why you need to know who I am. But with compute and having access to compute and having access freely to it, we see a huge problem with the amount of bureaucracy that happens there. And a core promise of the Web3 ecosystem has always been like this open, free financial space. And a lot of projects like IPFS, for instance, have pushed toward making an open, free, decentralized storage place. And, we kind of feel like the vision is incomplete without having an open and free and accessible compute system within Web3 that anyone can just go and run their apps on. For instance, there's a lot of regulatory scrutiny around some dApps. In some regions, you might not be able to run it. Legally, this gets quite complex quite quickly. And what LinqProtocol would offer is something where, once it's out there, it's you can't turn it off. It's self-governing, kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that there will be compute available to people. And personally, that's definitely something I find myself quite emotionally connected to, because I really dislike the censorship in the compute space. I dislike, especially, I've been seeing these comments from devs that were great developers, and then the AI era kind of came around, and they've been so outpriced because they don't have the money to afford playing around with APIs or hosting their own local models, and they really struggle to get access to these because, again, there's a lot of gates before you can actually get access to it. And building something that alleviates that concern for people and kind of fulfills that true promise of a decentralized internet versus just a decentralized financial space, I think that's a really cool vision and a really cool, almost essential mission to pursue.
Okay, superbly covered, especially my part. So moving on, update on development. So you mentioned, obviously, you clicked into the on-chain element, and you mentioned the on-chain because, as you've said, this can be done in Web 2, right? This doesn't need, it doesn't necessarily need to be a decentralized version of this. Do you want to dive in there a little bit and maybe explain sort of where we come on chain, what chain we will pick, and go from there?
So yeah, as you said, there are Web 2 solutions to this, but I think I've quite covered the kind of need for why a Web 3 solution makes sense. Not to mention cost, right? That's kind of the huge, if you're trying to figure out like, okay, what's the benefits of using LinqProtocol? Like the headline feature here is it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper because it's a marketplace, right? And in terms of like the three big companies, they have margin. They have place to inflate their margins because it's centralized and they kind of own the space. Offering a solution to this means you can get servers to bid, and by doing that, you'll drive costs down. And so, a headline feature for LinqProtocol will be, this is a really, really cost-effective place to run whatever else you were running on Web 2 solutions. As you mentioned, I guess the more interesting part of this discussion is, how are we bringing this on chain? How are we fulfilling the kind of latter half of this? One side is this technical Web 2 achievement, and the other side is, you need to deploy this really huge protocol and bring it on chain in a very sensible way. And so, this is an announcement that I think is probably going to go out shortly after this AMA, but we have a layer 2 that we've been in talks with, and we've been chatting with them and discussing a lot of things, and happy to announce that we're going to be deploying the second half of, or how can I say, we're going to be deploying the LinqProtocol economy onto Arbitrum. Why Arbitrum? It's a much faster place. It has higher transaction throughput, and for something like LinqProtocol to scale successfully, unfortunately, ETH will just be a kind of barrier for speed, right? There's a lot of delays on ETH. That said, the obvious question in any long-term holder's mind is like, what happens to the token? I want to lead this with saying, like, nothing happens to the token. When we say deploying to Arbitrum, another reason why we chosen this is it's probably the best place to deploy a wrapped version of your token. Now, for people who don't know what a wrapped version of a token is, it's not like a secondary token. It is literally just a kind of IOU on a separate chain. So it's exchangeable for the original token on the Ethereum chain. And so
Can I do my space bit? Can I do my space bit?
Yes, do your space bit.
John Sponson, if John Sponson listens to this, he will appreciate this. I know he will, even for me having a dig at him. So the way a wrap token is, like, if you imagine an astronaut in a space station, he exists inside his little ecosystem. In order for him to operate in space, he needs to put on a spacesuit. The spacesuit is that wrapped version, but he won't wear the spacesuit inside the capsule, so he puts it on. He can operate outside, the outside space being Arbitrum, and then he gets to then come back inside, take that spacesuit off, and then he is back in his little capsule, which is Ethereum, operating without his spacesuit. So yeah, I'm probably prouder than he should be about that analogy, but I know John, if he listens to this, will appreciate it. So that's how wrap token works. There are two of them. It's the same thing. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, and we'll go into a lot more detail in the light paper about exactly how you go about acquiring wrapped LNQ, and how rigidly we've thought about and defined every version of this, that this will only, again, be LNQ. The only reason it's called wrapped LNQ is obviously it's operating on the Arbitrum chain, and so you do have a disconnect there, and again, you need a faster token with faster throughput and a faster network to scale LinqProtocol effectively. And so, yeah, I think we're getting really close to giving people a first look at the LinqProtocol token economy. I've talked about this before, and I think for, maybe this year has been kind of, or maybe last year was kind of different, where you saw a lot of tokens kind of make it to market that didn't have big token economies. I think in the DeFi era, that was pretty abstract. In the DeFi era, you would launch and your token economy would be nice and complex and meaty, and there'd be things to critique and dig into. And with the rise of kind of the AI tokens, so to speak, or maybe not so ecosystem integral tokens, you've seen a lot of dissidence away from this idea of like having a big token economy. For something like LinqProtocol, it's very important to balance incentives. It's very important to give people places to earn money. It's very important to control inflation. It's very important to do all these number of things. And so it's a rather large token economy. We put a lot of work into it to make sure we get this right the first time. And yeah, we're really excited to start talking about this more openly. A lot of stuff been happening behind the scenes for months and months and months, and I think we're really close to surfacing this. So the LinqProtocol token economy is definitely going to be a huge expansion on what we have now. A lot of people are sad that farms ended, and obviously so. You could just put tokens in there and get more tokens back out. Who wouldn't be? But the LinqProtocol token economy will bring back staking in a very different way, where it serves a purpose in the core ecosystem. It matters if there's stakers. In fact, we need stakers to fund or to fuel LinqProtocol token economy. There's a lot here. There's a lot to cover. Definitely not enough to go over in one AMA. We've been writing rigorously a huge document covering all of this as best we can for where we are at right now, and we're excited to release that. Very proud of some of the ideas we're pioneering. Very proud of the way that we are approaching readapting the existing token economy without changing it. Kind of, I think it's better to think of it as an evolution or an extension of what we have now, rather than anything changing. And if you're an existing LNQ holder, like nothing changes. But if you want to participate in LinqProtocol in the future, we'll have all these mechanisms available for you to bridge over to Arbitrum and to use wrapped LNQ and interact with the protocol like that.
So probably worth mentioning at this stage, if you are someone who is a speculative I'm not going to say investor, and speculative holder, and you have you love the tech, you love what we're doing, what you like, what we're looking at, but you don't see yourself actually utilizing the protocol. You won't ever have to do anything. This will all happen from a working mechanism. It will all be the providers and requesters and people using the platform that will just do this back and forth, and it's the mechanism, it's the reward mechanism that's tied into that process of them using their wrapped LNQ as some form of currency and it coming back, which we'll explain all later. That is what will eventually make the token fall into a deflationary mechanism, which again we've worked very hard on and very proud of, because it's a very, very sort of self-sustaining and selfless sort of economy. So, but yeah, it's worth noting. I'm getting a lot of questions in the Telegram asking how holders benefit, how this, and all I'm going to say is that I'm not dodging that question, but I also don't want to do the disservice to the post that we've got prepared coming out for this to explain.
Yeah,
and like Logan said, it will be an initial, almost like an introduction explanation, and then it will, because it is such a massive topic, we'll then break it down into sort of bite-sizable chunks and do it that way.
Oh yeah, and we're well aware of how sensitive it is, and I think like for everyone, you just need to understand this. There won't be a liquidity pool Arbitrum, right? For all intents and purposes, that token won't have value except that it's an IOU for LNQ on ETH. That's an important point, because it doesn't have monetary value. The monetary value is only on one chain, only on ETH, and it will only ever be on ETH, right? So
it's like, Logan, I've got another analogy. You're gonna love this one.
Okay, this is gonna be
supermarket trolleys. Supermarket trolleys. You put your pound in, or your whatever, your quarter or whatever it is in the States, or your euro. You put it in, it releases the trolley. You use the trolley, then when you put the trolley back, you take your pound out.
Yes, exactly like that. Yeah, like
no money,
yeah.
Or you buy those tokens, and the tokens have no monetary value. They serve the same purpose, but there's no monetary value in LNQ. Basically,
yeah.
the over emphasis on these stupid analogies is that we really want to get across that LNQ won't change. It never will change. It will stay inside its own thing, and it will be the only version of its thing with its liquidity pool. There won't be anything else anymore. You can tell I'm going around in circles chasing my tail because people are laughing at me now, so I'll be quiet.
Yeah, but it's an important, because we know how sensitive this is, right? But why even make a wrapped LNQ? Again, back to the point, like for LinqProtocol to work at scale, we need something faster. ETH chain is just not going to cut it. But luckily, Arbitrum is an amazing L2. They have an amazing relationship with the ETH Foundation. They have amazing builder support, and we're really excited to be part of their ecosystem. And again, another place to get new eyes on the project. People who haven't seen us before in Arbitrum also have an opportunity to engage and use LinqProtocol and hear the LNQ ticker and get invested and interested in this ecosystem. So I think it's a really exciting change. But again, probably at the kind of end of the useful things to cover here, what I will say also, and I think this is important, is that we built this because we want to set this token up to survive not a year, not 2 years, not 5 years, not 10 years, like 50 years and above. We want this token to be the backbone of compute, decentralized compute in the Web3 ecosystem forever, right? That's the race we're trying to win. And positioning ourselves on scalable architectures is how we're going to win that race. So, George, I'm probably going to step on some question toes here again, but roadmap. We have an existing roadmap on the
Just 2 seconds, mate. Sorry, Logan. 2 seconds, sorry. So maybe now's a good time to talk about the roadmap.
No, actually, I'd rather talk about something else.
Right?
Yeah, the roadmap is, we have one on the site, and it was created when we wrote the initial light paper for LinqProtocol. That roadmap's largely the same. Not much has changed, but a lot of clarity as to how we're going to accomplish these goals and in which stages we're going to do them have come to light. And also the added complexity of all the smart contracts we need to build, have them audited, security considerations for Arbitrum also on there. But also, the long-term vision that we were kind of had in mind, but we didn't want to be over ambitious in some of these things. I think it's a lot more clear where this is headed and how we're going to get there. And I think in addition to a shorter term roadmap, because it's important to emphasize, we have very, very, very cool short-term goals. We also want to emphasize to people who are in this game for a longer run, where we want this project to go, what the 5-year plan looks like for this, because that's very clear in our minds. And we want to get that message across to everyone and excite people about where we're going with this. And so honestly, that's all we can say for the roadmap right now. there's something very exciting coming up, and it will be the very next thing on the roadmap past token economy release and things like that. So keep an eye out on the website. I'm sure there will be very formal announcements taking you guys through it, but we are very excited about LinqProtocols. I'm sure you can hear. Again, it's been an interesting company where we've had this dichotomy between the Web 2 world and the Web 3 world. And we think that by tying the kind of result of building scalable Web 2 apps, one of the things that they do is they make a lot of compute demand. Building the proxy to that Web3 where we can absorb the compute demand and also build something that really speaks to the space, that does what a Web3 company should do and builds things that are decentralized and on-chain. We think it's a match made in heaven, and we're really excited to surface this message better. It's a sensitive thing to surface though, because you don't want to overpromise or say things that you're unsure of at a time that you're unsure of them. But we're really coming to a point where I think a lot of exciting things that we've been working on for months and months and months are going to manifest all at the same time, and that's really what where we're trying to show people we're going. And so yeah, that's all I have to say really on the roadmap and probably on LinqProtocol as a whole before other announcements go out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered a huge amount, but will just touch on that last point you made, Logan. Like, you've seen those memes that sort of show Crypto Bros 2017 and Crypto Bros 2025, and it's all like, get the ETFs to buy and stuff. And I really do think that everyone has completely lost sight of all the sort of amazing technological advancements and things you can do in this space that you can't necessarily do outside this space. I mean, obviously there will be some, again, I won't go too much into the tokenomics thing that we've been working on, but the sort of DAO mechanics that we will offload sort of decision making and governance in areas we can as soon as we physically can, because that's what this space is about, and we think that's that's the way to sort of self-sustain as well. So it's bringing it back to sort of core principles as well, and I think there's so much you can do in this space that you can't do in a centralized space with the community. So I just want to echo that final part of what you said there, Logan. So look, I mean, I've got tokenomics down as the last point for us to discuss, but I think what we've done is we've mentioned elements of this throughout the entire sort of AMA sort of thus far with regards to sort of what we want to do. So is tokenomics something you want to just axe now at this stage, purely because we've mentioned so much about it?
Yeah, I think like keep an eye out on Twitter. Something exciting is going to go out about this, and over the coming weeks we'll roll out more and more information, and we'll do it sensitively, knowing that this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and we want you to know that we've had holders' best interests in heart, projects' best interests at heart, and yeah, I'm really excited about what we're going to roll out with this, but I have nothing more to say on it for now.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, do we want to let's put out to the floor for any questions anyone's got, any concerns at this stage, or any follow-ups? I've got a couple actually on Telegram whilst I wait for people to sort of muster up the courage to come on stage and speak. Okay, so we have a question here. When do we think that a LinqProtocol alpha trial would be available? Oh, I've only asked that because I know it puts you on the spot there. I love it, Logan.
I think, the internal plan is roll this out in stages where we start almost as centralized as we can, make everything work, make sure people have a great experience with the Link requester dashboard, and gradually start stripping away centralized layers until we have the entire decentralized puzzle. Again, probably would have been great to put out the whole thing before the AMA so people can see the scope of some of this stuff. But I need you guys to understand the scope of some of this stuff. Proxy projects, Akash, for instance, they've been building on their projects since 2014, and even still, they're far away from maturity. So it's a loaded question. The question is, when will you be at alpha? Define alpha a bit better. From my perspective, when will we be at alpha? In the next few months, we'll have something to show that will excite everyone. When will we be at alpha for the first decentralized version of this? That's further months away. When will we be at the alpha version for servers? That's closer. When will the alpha be for community providers? That's a bit further away again. So, define alpha, and it's an easier question to answer. But, you're talking months, not years. I think that's what you're trying to get at, right? And
yeah.
But also at the same time, you're talking years to fulfill this entire vision. But along that road, there's multi-month goals that will excite people the whole way through. And again,
and use cases, right? And use cases as well. Yeah, like you said, you can release it like, if you think of it like a modular. Don't worry, I'm not going to come up with a crap analogy, but in sort of a modular basis, you'll be releasing elements as we move forward. And to be fair, Logan, I've been on many of the development calls. You and the team have structured it in a way that it can be released, and it's not all coked up. Look, we understand how Web3 happens. We understand that people people's attention span can waver. So we are acutely aware of that, and that's why it will come out in these stages where you can get your hands. I think what the question is when can I touch something? I think that was, when's the first time I can touch something? It's from it's a regular member. I know him. I think that's what he meant.
Yeah, and I think that's answered, right? Like, again, touch something in a couple of months, touch the whole thing in a couple of years. But the whole thing is so big, it's so ambitious. Even $1 billion projects have been building on it for years, right? And so that's where we're headed. I think that's another thing. In terms of like our weight class, like we're punching way above our weight class. We shouldn't be able to build something this ambitious, and we're well on our way. And in terms of like internal development progress, I couldn't be prouder of how far we've come, and I think we'll keep doing it. And here's the thing to like realize, and I at the cost of being too blunt, it's like we're a pretty small project, and we're doing things that like really big projects do. And the rest of the 2 and 2 everyone else can put together. But like that's my 10 cents, right? It's we've put ourselves in a position with everything we've done in the last 18 months, getting here to be able to punch this far above our weight class, and it's going to be a matter of time before this manifests into real world proof that we've been doing some good things in the background. So that's I think all that's left to be said there.
Yeah, I disagree. I think once you start to see the tokenomics paper and those pieces, the puzzle fall into place, I think it will start to click quicker than you imagine it will. But forever the pragmatist there, and
I'm literally just prepared to just keep building for as long as it takes until it clicks. So that it's so funny. George and I have this dichotomy between just like keep going for forever and then be optimistic as you get there. But on that note, I keep saying it's this huge thing. We've made sure that we're completely in a position to take on something this big and just keep going with it until it works out. When that will be, we don't know. George is very optimistic as always, but it will happen, and so that's what we're working toward every single day.
But but I mean, just some context there. So when we're developing Marketer, you are the first thing that does end-to-end marketing. You are in a, I won't go back to a space analogy, but you're the first people to be there. People have trodden the path we're going down. The beauty of it is that, and what do they always say, Logan? You said you never want to be the first to market because you have all the barriers, all the hurdles, all the mistakes you make. It's when you can sort of come in behind the vanguard, you see what's been done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and you can apply areas there. And look, we've been incredibly frugal with runway and stuff, and we've planned for that. Like, I don't want to scare anyone when Logan starts using the word years and stuff, but this has all been planned out, to last a huge amount of time, because we understand that the sort of the complexity of the task ahead, and more importantly, like realistically how long it's going to take. We could sit here and just spew a load of rubbish about this and spew a load of rubbish about that to try and encourage to sucker people in, but it is a monumental thing. And I think once you see the tokenomics and start to understand the mechanisms of how it works, a few people will start to see the level of complexity and what it takes to move from a small project into a much larger one. And that's always been the goal, is to be more credible, be taken more seriously, and to provide some genuine use case in the space. And as far as utility terms for the token, like the utility goes from being something you just need to hold to use something, which you could, let's be honest, you could easily substitute with a fiat gateway, into something where you absolutely must have a decentralized mechanism. You must have a token. There will be numerous smart contracts that are all working in tandem together to be able to sort of make the system work. So again, it's really starting to get to the stage now. I think it will start to, the picture we paint will start to make more sense to people. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with that. So that was that question. That was led on for that question. I mean, there is another one I've got here. Yeah, it's about tokenomics. It's about and stake and validator stake perspective. It's a good question, but it's a question I think, well, I know that you will want us to wait out for maybe the next post or two on Twitter. So I will leave that one be. Does anyone want to jump up on stage and have any questions to ask, or any concerns, or anything at all? Okay, so we do have, Logan, this is something I wanted to mention and gripe about for a while, right? We do have people asking about exchanges, because I think people's idea is that you list on an exchange, it's IP, and people buy. But as you'll notice, or if you have a keen eye, the more exchanges you're on, even if you have low liquidity on those exchanges, the more you have to move, or the harder it is to move that token. So if you are just on decentralized exchange and you put a buy on, or a buy or a sell on Uniswap, that the token price moves, that's it. There's nowhere else you can access that token, and it'll just go up and down there. If you have 7 exchanges and you buy 100 grand on the Uniswap, the price will shoot up in Uniswap, and then it creates arbitrage opportunities because the price is lower on all 7 of those exchanges. So inevitably, what happens is then people, arbitrage bots, then buy the token cheap on the exchanges, and then sell them down on this decentralized exchange where the liquidity is thicker. So, ladies and gents, for those of you listening, those of you that care, it is a double-edged sword, right? We think we're, for the size of token we are, we're probably on too many exchanges potentially, right? At this size, not a problem for us because we manage it really well and we've got superb market makers. But you won't see any more exchange listings for us, not until we are mega big, because it's it is definitely a double-edged sword. So we've provided you with loads of different opportunities that if you want to buy and sell the token or trade the token, you can do. But also just remember, that whenever you see that 404 wallet come up, that's someone selling down on MEXC, and whether you see the EF2 wallet, that's someone selling down on BitGet or buying and exchanging, and that's how those wallets buy. So I won't go too much into it, but we won't be pushing for any more exchanges in the short term, just because there's no real benefit to it now. And I think we've got a good spread, right? BitGet is a $1 million listing fee, I think, at the moment. So maybe a little bit less now, but yeah, so I think we've done pretty well with our spread of exchanges, in case anyone has any of those questions coming up.
Just to add there, right? Like, they're enormously expensive, expensive. And where we put that money rather is like building out things that are going to serve long-term utility for the token, right? And we think that's a better use of funds for supporting this token. And also, the hype you get from exchange listing is very short-lived, especially if you're already on BitGet and MEXC and. So just to add there, I think like not a reasonable place to invest. I think LinqProtocol is a much more reasonable place for us to make that investment.
Yeah, agreed. Any other questions, guys? I'm not seeing any at all. Look, I mean, it's a quiet space at the moment. I think everyone knows that. I think it's a very confusing time for everyone with Bitcoin at all-time high. ETH is underperforming but showing signs of life, but it doesn't seem to be anyone anywhere. Like I said, we were on an AMA with the Arbitrum guys. We were doing a presentation, and the numbers weren't what you'd expect from a token and a project with that credibility. And I do just think that the space is very quiet. So for those of you that are sticking around, definitely hats off to you. I mean, I've been there as a sort of a degen before, and it is very, very tricky, especially when you nothing really makes sense from a logical standpoint. So I would just say, look, potentially that we have busier times ahead, but we will keep building, we will keep doing what we do, and we will keep sharing with you. So you guys, the moment we have something that we can, it will be in a video or a graphic, and it'll be pumped out there. So there's nothing that's being held back. There's no VC stepping in. There's no OTC deals where people are getting sort of backhanded information we are trying to be as fair as humanly possible to share as much stuff at the moment that we have it. So it's everyone can make informed decisions as and when they choose. So look, Logan, I think we've covered, you've done a great job at covering all these sort of updates. There aren't any more questions coming in. In fact, there is one question. Fabian has asked, can you tell something about the Arbitrum partnership? It is not a partnership yet, Fabian. We are utilizing their platform. We've only just started speaking to them, and again, being completely honest, and they're being incredibly helpful back and forth. Logan's been throwing technical questions their way, which you can tell excites them, because people who are technical enjoy being, having their grey matter pressed. So there's some back and forth there, which is great, and we will continue to develop that relationship as we go forward. And we are speaking to their foundation, the Arbitrum Foundation. So they do have grants available and support mechanisms available. I mean, just an example, there is just a touch in. There's a gas. There's one for gas, which obviously, as we're developing, even on Arbitrum being considerably cheaper and faster, there is still a fair amount of cost involved with all the smart contracts and all the testing that needs to be done. So, again, they've been incredibly helpful, incredibly useful. They are very professional, and it's it's really, really refreshing to sort of be in there and have them very sort of pragmatic and objective about what we want to do. And they go away and they find the person to answer that question. They come back. And so, yeah, it's been a great experience thus far. But yeah, no, look, we will explain more about that. But look, we're not going to sit here and do that fake hype thing. We will be utilizing their platform and they will provide us with the support. But yes, well, we hope it will develop into something more. So thanks for us. Sorry?
No, I just said nice. Well covered. Just a question, Crypto Slayer, do you have like a quick, do you want to hop on stage? Because I keep seeing like raised hands. I'm not sure if you're trying to ask a question or not. Heart, does that mean yes? Heart twice if it means yes.
Start 3 times if you need us to call an ambulance and you're having some form of a TIA.
Yeah. Thumbs down if you need help. SOS.
Yes. Okay. Now we get nothing. Okay. Fair enough. Perfect. Okay. I think I know. Okay. Guys, if there's nothing else, we are coming up nicely to the hour. I really appreciate those of you who hopped on to listen. I hope that there was some benefit. All right, Danny. I hope there was some sort of a benefit to listening. I hope this will make a lot more sense in when we make the next post. Hopefully the tokenomics element will make a lot more sense to you guys. But I hope it's of use to you. I hope you can see that we are still grinding away. And as always, if you've got any questions, whether it be in Telegram or Discord, please ask away, whether it's the mods or tag ourselves if it's something that's more serious or you think there's a good idea. And we're always around. So we're always around, and we'll never dodge any questions unless they're from Fabian. Then I will dodge at will.
Cool.
Anything from you, Logan? I think we wrap it up. Yeah,
this is a good place to wrap it up. Thanks so much everyone for joining. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, keep an eye on Twitter. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care.